Tibor, thank
Hello.
you so much for agreeing to this interview. I say agreeing, you were kind of bullied into it.
Being forced into.
Because the patrons and YouTube channel members voted for me to do a video where I interview you.
Wow.
And so now we get to learn a little bit about you and your life. I will try to ask the most probing questions so that we can drill down into who the real Tibor is. And I might make you uncomfortable at times.
Okay. So the usual stuff.
The usual stuff, yeah.
Okay.
So the first question I wanted to ask is, who is the best boss you've ever worked for, and why is it me?
Oh my. Well, you're the only boss I ever worked for, which makes you the
By
best.
default,
By
the best
default,
and worst.
And the worst. Mostly the worst.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now we're getting into the...
Fair enough.
Now we're
So
spilling the tea,
that's where
as
we're
they say.
going. That's where we're going, okay. So, you have been working for me since the beginning of 2021?
Yes.
Talk us through what the recruitment process looked like from your side, because from my side, I think I've said before what it was like, and the fact that I needed a video editor, and I was very specific about what kind of person I wanted, and you answered the ad, and we interviewed you, and almost immediately after the interview, I remember saying, this is exactly who I want. Talk us through what it was like on your side. How did you first find out about the channel and the vacancy, and what was it like going through that recruitment process?
The recruitment process for me was, basically I was, for over half a year, I was basically every day on Moj Posao, which is a website where you search for jobs, and because it was basically the very start of the proper pandemic, it wasn't, pandemic was already here, for almost a year, but it wasn't like, you didn't feel the effects of just how bad the economy got hit until late 2020, early 2021. So I was just trying to look for jobs, and sadly one of the first things that get cut is the creative types of jobs. Sadly, it's especially in Croatia, we don't really have a strong film industry, or just a content creation industry, however you want to call it. So as it was that week, and it got hurt pretty bad, so finding a job wasn't easy, and I was just going through ads and sort of starting to apply for basically anything. And one day I stumbled upon your ad, which was in English, which was quite interesting. It was interesting especially because I saw that the ad was in English, but the location was Sisak, which is quite unusual. So yeah, it piqued my interest. I applied, and in the application I found out about the company. Through the company I found out about your channel, started watching it a bit, found out about the Boredom Buster. Yeah, as soon as I saw
the Boredom Buster 3000.
The 3000, yeah.
I don't know how that never caught on.
Yeah.
There's an obvious gap in the market. Anyway,
yeah.
We digress.
Maybe the boredom has been busted because Stephen Lett is so interesting. So the boredom busted itself, basically.
Yeah, he's broken it. Yeah. Okay, so go on.
So I thought oh, this guy has a sense of humor that I could vibe with.
Yeah.
So I applied. You responded rather quickly, which is again unusual for Croatian employers to respond at all if they aren't interested. But if they are interested, they tend to respond really late whenever they feel like it. So it was. It felt different. It felt like I wasn't being employed by a Croatian company in that sense, that things were going much smoother. For instance, it was the middle of the pandemic, and I applied for a job at the Museum of Modern Art here in Zagreb, and they required me to bring not like a resume for an interview, but just the application. I needed to bring the application physically to the place during the pandemic when you try to avoid
socially distance.
Yeah, you try to avoid all human contact. So things like that. When I saw that it was someone who actually cared about the other side.
Because we did the interview over Zoom, didn't we?
We did the interview over Zoom, and once you've let me know that I've actually got the job, you were quite wary of the fact that we should keep contact still to a minimum, to keep everyone safe and everything.
Yeah.
So things like that. Just the flow of communication, the amount of communication, all of that was different.
I remember we had the Zoom interview, and then we had effectively a second interview where you came to the house, and it was almost like you almost wanted to make sure it was legit. That was kind of the vibe I was picking up, like, oh, he's wondering whether this might be some kind of scam or something, and he needs to kind of get certain reassurances, and it felt like at one point, I wouldn't say I was pleading with you, but I was having to almost pitch the job to you and explain why this was something that you would want,
Yeah, I do understand that it felt sort of like that from your end, and from my end it did to an extent feel like that, because it was odd, definitely. YouTube in Croatia as a thing isn't as nearly as... Okay.
Someone's trying to compensate for something.
Someone's trying to show us their Honda. Basically, YouTube in Croatia is a pretty small thing, and the biggest YouTubers are people who work from home, work alone. They are vlogger types, and so again, I just wanted to make sure that it was what I understood from the job description, from the interview, from the initial interview, and everything. So it might have felt from your end like you were needing to convince me.
Yeah.
But from my end, it was more like I just wanted to make sure that I understood everything, because I would hate to waste anyone's time.
Yeah.
Mine, yours, anyone's time, and it was just a way of, like, this is it. These are my assignments. These are my responsibilities. This is what I'll be paid. This is where I'll work. Just the whole thing.
Yeah. So, what we'll do is because obviously a lot has happened since then.
To say the least, yeah.
So we'll address that kind of a bit later, but first it would be fun to kind of go further back in time. Obviously, your privacy is important, and this is going to be seen by thousands of people, and you're going to want to limit how much about your personal life you disclose publicly. But to the extent you can tell us about your background, that would be helpful, and particularly, to what extent you were exposed to the concept of Jehovah's Witnesses as being a thing before you started working with it.
My background, I'll go through my religious background, basically.
Yeah.
My parents were atheists. My grandma was quite a religious person. She would pretty regularly go to church and everything, and it meant a lot to her. But she wasn't the type, to aggressively push her beliefs onto you. She was just like, I have my faith, and that's something I respected about her. And we grew closer and closer together, and she basically became sort of like, in a way, the most important person in my life, in my early life. And I wanted to sort of as a way of honoring her, I wanted to go into a bit of religious exploration, let's call it like that. I was a kid, so we had the religious classes in school, and I've learned a bit about there. And one of my schoolmates, he was an altar boy, and he was telling me about that, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. I would like to try that out. So I was an altar boy for, I don't know, over a year.
Did you wear a special costume?
Yeah, the special gown.
Is there any way we could persuade you to reenact your time as an altar boy with the costume?
Okay, only if you'll be the priest. Because the altar boy by himself isn't of much
Purely
use.
for my own entertainment?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
For your own sadistic entertainment. Yeah.
Sorry, go on. You were an altar boy.
I was an altar boy, and like a hardcore altar boy. I was
a hardcore altar boy.
Hardcore.
Wow.
Yeah. I was doing at least one mass a day, and there were times when I would do two. So that's pretty crazy. And I was like the third grade of elementary school, which is like 10 years old. So I was just going every day. I was even doing like the things that I wasn't supposed to because I was so young, like weddings, christenings, stuff like that. They would include me because I was just so, and oftentimes I would be the only altar boy. So, yeah.
Sorry, as someone from a Jehovah's Witness background, I understand, I've heard of altar boys, but I don't actually know what it is they do. Do you stand by the altar and kind of pass items?
In a way,
yeah.
You do sit mostly off to the side. There are like 2 rows of chairs off to the sides. And you sit there and you pray along and you do like the kneeling and stuff like that. But when it comes time to do like it's called the offerings, the wine and unleavened bread and stuff, then you do take it over to the altar and assist the priest with that. And when there are christenings and stuff like that, then you do hold some items, and as much as I remember,
So you're basically carrying things, pretty much.
Yeah.
And assuming certain positions.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, is it?
Yeah, you get put into positions.
Okay. Okay. So you were an altar boy. Go on.
Yeah, I was an altar boy, but religion itself, it never sort of clicked with me. I was doing everything. I was praying and stuff, but I've had a bad experience with a nun who was holding our religious classes, and then it sort of clicked that it wasn't all that special. I sort of just felt like it's all like fun in a way. There's a sense of community, there's a sense of belonging and being a part of something greater, but other than that you don't really get much. So after that I pretty much basically cut all ties with church. Later on what's it called, the confirmation? Yeah, the confirmation. At first I thought about...
Is that like 13 years old or something?
Yeah, something like that. And I thought about going, and I started going to the classes at their offices, whatever they call them, like what would you call them? They have the offices by the church. I'm not sure what it's called, like the congregation offices, let's call them like that.
Okay.
And again, it just didn't feel that special, and it felt even less special when I saw that most of the friends of mine and colleagues from school, they were mostly going because of gifts. They were like, oh my, because you get like a second godfather or a godmother, and they're like, oh, they are so rich, they're going to buy me a quad bike, a new PlayStation, a new computer, a phone.
Seriously?
Give me like 5,000 euros.
Whoa. So godfathers would do that, buy you a quad bike, if you had the right one? Yeah,
if you had like a richer, but even like the poorer ones would get you like a nice gift, we are talking about like 100 euro plus necklaces and stuff like that, jewelry, but yeah, the really rich ones would really like go out, and then it felt like really not special at all. If you aren't doing it for like a reason of personal belief or advancing yourself in the religion and just for the money, why not? Why does it have to be like this special thing? Why not just say, oh, hey, can you buy me a quad bike?
Yeah.
Buy me a quad bike. You know?
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah. Why do I need to? Yeah. Why do I need to go to classes and pray?
I'm in need of a quad bike. You're feeling generous. Let's do a deal.
Yeah. Sadly, there is no Jehovah's hand in in Christianity, so you cannot just say like, oh, Jehovah's hand, please get me a quad bike. So we do have to go through the process of.
Wow.
Yeah, but
I'm imagining a quad bike with like holy water splashed on it or something. Anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean they do that in Croatia. There are like blessings for bikes because
they
cars.
do blessings for bikes, and they also do blessings for houses. And the house gets like almost like an MOT sticker.
Yeah, you do get
You get like houses where you go in and it's like a sticker for every year, and what that means is that the priest has come round and literally just splashed water, and sometimes if you pay them more, they'll splash like multiple rooms or.
Oh really?
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know about the like the traditional MOT where they go in the like the living room and they do like a little bit of splashing with like a rosemary twig and holy water.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
yeah, that's going to be pricey, I would imagine.
Yeah, you get the MOT sticker. And
holy rosemary.
Holy rosemary. Yeah. So, and you of course have to pay.
Holy
them.
Rose Mary.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to pay them, of course, which is it was quite funny because in one of the cities up north a few years ago, a priest was going around blessing houses in a brand new Audi Q5, which is like a 50,000+ euro car, and he's asking you to give him like 10 euros equivalent to help the church. So.
Yeah. Wow. So you were seeing all this, and it wasn't. It wasn't very inspiring for you.
No.
Yeah.
And my JW background would be that when my parents were divorcing, my mom got jumped by JWs, as they tend to. They tend to smell the tragedy in someone's life.
So just to be clear, it's not like they jumped out from behind a bush and accosted Tibor's mother. He's using quite aggressive language to describe his mother, someone attempting to recruit his mother.
Basically, yeah. She got recruited, but my mom is a very conflictive person, let's say it that way politely. She could get into an argument with anyone about anything. So, and not being religious at all, they try the standard, spiel of the eternal life, and you'll get to, because she was mourning the loss of her father, whom she lost right after she was born, so she never remembered, but they were like, oh, you're going to meet your father again. So we went to a few meetings.
Oh, right. I didn't know you went to a few meetings.
Well, not meetings like Kingdom Hall meetings, but meetings, I guess you would call them Bible studies.
Bible studies, yeah.
Bible studies. They had like a really nice sort of like a patio, and they would serve us like tea and candy.
So you went to their place?
Yeah, we went to their place. They
had a nice patio?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I don't remember because I was really young. I was like maybe 5, 6, something like that. But it was a really nice place, and I don't think it was where the Kingdom Hall was. I think it was someone's house.
Someone's house, yeah.
But it was like really nice and everything, and I remember
You want
that.
to impress Tibor, make sure you have a nice patio. That's all it takes.
If you're a cult member, have the nicest patio possible. We might be able to work on something.
Did it have like outdoor burners and all that kind of thing? Like
now you're asking a bit much, considering I was 6, I don't remember.
Gazebos and...
Yeah, it sort of was like a gazebo patio thing, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
So it was quite nice. But yeah, that's my short lived history with Jehovah's Witnesses. My mom just immediately got into an argument, and it went nowhere. So that's my religious history as a whole. I after quitting Christianity for good, I never went back. I never tried to be religious or anything. It never attracted me.
Did you or do you identify as there's a car nearly reversing into our camera, thankfully that hasn't happened. Did you or do you identify as an atheist, or are you just non-religious?
I do identify as an atheist. I do think that the universe as a whole has been mostly unexplored, and if not a god, there might be some, who knows, some energies or entities, like maybe moving the blocks of our everyday lives. So who knows? If someone had like an incredibly strong argument, I definitely would listen to them and see what they have to say, which is why I really do like our Change My Mind series, where thumbnail here.
And you have to say, if I am gracious, a thumbnail
shall appear somewhere.
Okay.
I'll probably
You're being
be
gracious
lazy.
to yourself now.
Yeah. Giving myself more work.
Okay.
We're
we're struggling, aren't we, to find people for the Change My Mind series, because as it turns out, it's harder to, although there are lots of religious people, it turns out the percentage of religious people who are confident enough to defend their beliefs publicly is actually quite infinitesimal.
Yeah, quite low.
Yeah.
Especially here in Croatia, there are a lot of what people...
Well, it was worse in London.
Yeah. But here, there's something that people tend to call like paper Catholics, someone who went through all of the rituals and everything and attends a mass here and there and declares themselves as Christian, but their beliefs are like not all that strong. So there's not much to defend in a way, and I think that's the case in Croatia. Plus, there is the language barrier, but as we've seen in London, the language barrier is only a small part of the story, because even with native speakers, we were struggling to find someone to speak to, and the person we did bump into was like completely random
and basically a street preacher, so we kind of hit the jackpot with him.
Yeah.
But we did have people coming up to us who were saying, "Oh, I'm an atheist. I would like to do this, but we kind of agree with each other."
Yeah, or I would do if the sign said the opposite.
Yeah, if it said the opposite, yeah. So, okay, well, yeah, because that's not something where we've ever really talked about that before. I just kind of assume you to be an atheist, but it's not something where, like, when I was recruiting, it was like, you have to be an atheist. I think I said something along the lines of having some kind of sympathy towards secularism, or I said something along those lines, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you need to be an atheist.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward to 2023. Can't keep up with what year it is. Again, a lot has happened. So you've been working with us now for over 2 years.
Yeah.
It's safe to say that 2021 was significantly easier on us as a company than 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. And without wanting to kind of rake over all of that too much, I guess my question would be, do you regret joining the company?
No, I don't regret joining the company or doing what I do, because if I did, I would have already quit. Sort of my actions speak for me.
Yeah.
There are always regrets and stuff like that, but no, joining the company, doing the work that I do, I don't regret doing that. I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy the fact that we are helping people, that we are having people, like with voicemails, sending return voicemails, saying that they've done something, that it helped them, or they have additional questions. It means that there is something, and someone might say, you know, oh, you maybe help like one person, but still, you know, helping one person is a lot, because not many of us get the opportunity, you know. Like, for anyone watching, you know, ask yourself, when was the last time you've helped someone in any way? And it doesn't have to be anything big, but, and I'm not saying that anyone's a bad person for not helping anyone, but it's just the world that we live in sort of tends to occupy us with what we do so much that we hardly see the world outside of our little bubble.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said just for, I think what you're talking about here is job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing is there's this duality of, on the one hand, the job kind of eating us alive because it's very emotionally draining, not just for me but for you as well. I mean, there's the emotionally draining aspect of the content itself that we're producing, where we're going over some extremely disturbing material and some really messed up ideas. And especially when we're talking about stuff like child abuse, I mean, it's like acid, isn't it? It eats away at you. So there's that side of it. There's also all of the nonsense with dealing with the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, quote unquote, which can be an absolute nightmare to navigate. But on the other hand, you have this, you know, the dopamine levels are being topped up by, you know, the positive feedback that we're getting. And there's a lot to be said for, like you say, just an act of kindness in and of itself, you know, irrespective of what numbers we're talking about. I mean, it could be hundreds, it could be thousands, but even, like you say, if it's just one. I can remember, I was thinking actually just the other day, I was working at home and I was supposed to go to Ramacro later. And I thought, well, really what I should do to maximise on my time is I should just stay at home, eat lunch at home, and then go to Ramacro. And then I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go out and get some fresh air, and I'm going to go to my favourite restaurant and order my favourite meal, and then at least I'm breaking up the day a bit. And when I went to the restaurant, the waiter, I think it might have been the owner, gave me a free bowl of soup. And he said, you're a regular customer, you get some free soup, you know. And that really lifted me. It was almost like being acknowledged as an individual, being recognized and being rewarded with an act of kindness just lifted my whole day.
Yeah.
And probably impacted on the energy that I was able to bring to the camera later on. So it's like the whole kind of butterfly effect thing. You just never know what an impact something as simple as a video or even a second in a video can have on people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that though I'm not spiritual or anything, I do think that there is something karma-like in the universe, you know, where we do reap what we sow. Yeah. Where you know, being kind and being helpful, you know, it sort of tends to come back in who knows what ways, you know. Right. It could be something super simple and insignificant, or it could change your life. But I think that, being a good person and helping someone in a really insignificant way can make an impact. So, you know, like you said, a bowl of soup that probably costs like cents to the restaurant itself, but it, you know, lifted your whole day up. Yeah. So I've got some free soup and it was really nice actually. Yeah. So there's definitely something to be said about that. Yeah. And that's why I am so happy that we're helping people. Again, not for my own to be on a dopamine rush or to hope that karma is going to return everything. No, it's just, it's nice to see that people are helped in some way, and that people are, and not just us, you know. I saw plenty of times that when we do interviews, the interview subject, you know, the people the people that we interview come in the comments, thank us, thank the other people who are commenting, and sometimes there's like a conversation. People are helping each other, so
Yeah.
there's definitely more to it than just what we do. You know, there's like a little network, and I think that it's a great thing to be a part of it.
What are your favorite videos to edit and the least favorite videos to edit?
Well, in the beginning, as you know, and still to an extent, but not nearly as much, my least favorite to edit were the interviews. They aren't complicated technically, but
I hated editing those as well before you joined, yeah.
There are multiple camera angles, and I don't have to, but I like to upscale the zoom camera angle if we don't get a video from the interview.
So when he says upscale, what he means is he puts it through an AI process that essentially adds pixels, so that rather than it being very grainy and pixelated, the lines are sharper and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because we from Zoom, the meeting platform, we get a 360p file, which is in 2023 it's simply not nearly good enough. So when I first started working, I was like, this doesn't look good. You know, once it's blown up on a 1080p display, it doesn't look good. So I've started experimenting, and I found a tool that I like, and I do upscale our videos. But sometimes we get the angle from the interviewee. Sometimes that requires work, like noise reduction, color correction, grading, all sorts of stuff. So that plus all of the camera angles, maybe fixing the audio if needed and stuff like that, it can be. But apart from all of that, because that's especially now that I've got a lot of practice, a lot of work that I've done has really just got me into a routine when it comes to editing interviews. But the harder part, especially at the beginning, was the stories, the really gut-wrenching stuff, like Dave Grace's interview. That was like one of the hardest. It was absolutely horrible just to think that those things still happen. Not just, you know, if you saw it in a movie, you would be like, oh, that's messed up. But when you hear it from the father of a person whom it happened to, it just, you know, and it's within Jehovah's Witnesses, whom still a lot of people think are just like Catholics that are maybe a bit weird or something. They don't understand just the layers upon layers of messed up that are above the weird Catholics, you know, because on the surface level they are just weird Catholics that don't believe in Trinity, and
which is probably your view coming into this job, that they're just mostly harmless, probably. Yeah,
it was sort of like, at first I thought you were pro Jehovah's Witness when I just first stumbled onto the channel, and I saw the jw.org sign above your shoulder, and I was like, okay, like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to work for Jehovah's Witnesses, because, as you said, I thought that they were just like weird Catholics, like with some strange beliefs, but okay, I'll survive. And then as I've uncovered more and more through watching the few initial videos and working on many videos, it's been horrible.
Sometimes your language against the organization when we're just in normal conversation is even more kind of, I'm going to say, aggressive than mine. That's the weird thing, you know?
Sort of, in a way, and you are the one who went through.
I'm the one that's trying to calm you down a bit, you know?
Sometimes it is like that, because in a way it's easier for you because you have gone through the whole JW experience, so you understand what goes through your head when you try to justify. But through me, as someone who hasn't gone through It just sort of breaks my brain, thinking like, how can you believe this? Like, look at Stephen Lett, he's like an evil animatronic. And
it's just obvious.
And and you're believing what he's saying, and he's saying like some really messed up stuff. So.
Yeah. So interviews the
least favorite, I think still, even though not nearly as much as they were in the beginning. I'm fine now, especially now we've started doing them again, and I've missed them in a way because it's nice to edit when there's a larger variety.
It's just a nice linear thing to do.
And there's more variety in content. Most favorite, I would say, even though they are sort of the most challenging would be when we do like field shooting. The Selters Escape was...
Well, you literally did field shooting.
When are you going to let this go? Yes, there was literally.
So Tibor, bless him, has this thing where... Well, there's another thing as well that he has, which I find quite charming, but he also, I've noticed, sometimes he needs to go on like this spiritual journey and have time by himself. Yeah. And when we were filming the Selters Escape, he just went wandering off in a field, and he claimed it was to get B-roll. And to be fair, he did have a camera with him, and he did look like he might be filming B-roll. But I think we all know that he just needed some time and space to kind of commune
escape
with
from
nature.
You a bit,
So field work is
editing.
It's hard.
Shooting and editing, it's really hard, but it's also really rewarding when things click together. And I remember the first field shooting that we did, like first proper, once we got the Sony, was Patrick's interview. And that was pretty scary because I've barely had contact with the camera. Like I've set it up in the studio and did like a couple of tweaks. Up to that point.
And suddenly you're shoving it in the face of pigs.
Suddenly I'm walking around with the Ronin. Rest in peace, Ronin.
We lost it,
we lost it. I was having to fight all of that new equipment, but in the end, I did like the way it turned out. So it has been definitely rewarding, and the Phaeton Challenge, it was like a really scenic location and everything. It really was one of my favorite, I could say, interviews. Because it was an interview in such a beautiful location, and it was really interesting.
Oh, so when you say the field work is challenging, are you also saying it's simultaneously the most enjoyable?
In a way, it's rewarding. There's also a high like risk reward where but also quite challenging, but really rewarding. I think in the end.
I must say, if I'm thinking about filming, if I'm thinking about content, the content I most enjoy actually filming is always when I'm with you, basically. Don't get a big head, but I'll never hear the end of this. But I think there's something to be said for collaborative work and being with someone working on something, rather than just me being in Ramacro staring at a camera and trying to think of intelligent things to say,
collaborations are important and are really enjoyable, even if you aren't shooting together. But like when we did the 607, that was really challenging, and it really did require us to be together and to work on. And I remember that we had like to do a lot of little tweaks and stuff like that, and shoot additional shots and stuff like that. So, and it came out great. So
you've mentioned a few videos in terms of the ease when it comes to, or how enjoyable it was to be involved in making them. But if you had to narrow the channel down in your, let's say in the 2 years you've been working on the channel, what would be your 3 favorite videos in terms of
I think that number one would definitely be the 40, is it 40 scientific contradictions?
Yeah. Scientific inaccuracies, yeah.
Oh, scientific inaccuracies,
Yeah.
Now we've done contradictions,
Yeah.
so that's still fresh in my mind, because it's got like a huge amount of views, and it opened my eyes to like a lot of things that are just like, how can anyone believe this? You know,
Yeah.
just like the sky being solid and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
just
pillars of the heavens.
yeah,
and
pillars of the heavens
yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that it did help not just JWs, but like anyone who's like a Bible apologist or fundamentalist or in any way related to believing things in the Bible. I hope that it opened their eyes, that it helped people, which it must have, considering how many views it has gathered. The second one would be, I would say, the Sulters Escape, because it was our biggest project so far. It was a new experience, like our first international shoot. It was, you know.
I can't watch that. I mean, without wanting to go into all of that stuff, I just can't watch it. But I'm glad that it's there and that it exists and that we made it. And I'm also proud of how well we made it, if that makes sense. Even though for various reasons that we don't need to go into, I just can't watch it. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand that angle. Regardless of anything, I'm really glad that I got to meet Ben, to hear his stories, it was also...
We talked a lot, didn't we, on the way back, and I remember at the end thinking, surely we could have captured more of the conversations that because it was like a 9-hour car drive back.
Yeah, maybe even more like 10.
And we talked so much, and because we'd literally just boosted him from Bethel, it was all gushing out, and there was all this really cool information, and not just that, but his personal story. That's the one regret that I have about that project, is that we could have somehow tapped into that a little bit more. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, we could have. There were a lot of things that he said and stuff like that. Like, to me, something that stuck out to me the most, and I hope that Ben doesn't mind me mentioning this. It was when we went to McDonald's.
Yeah.
He got like proper enthusiastic about McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's!
Yeah. And the both of us were like, okay, we're going to eat, it's McDonald's. It's nothing special. But he was like, he said that he wasn't, for years, I think,
he hadn't been to McDonald's for years.
They basically didn't let him, because it's understandable. You're in Bethel and you have meals prepared and everything.
Yeah.
So you are in that JW bubble. So it was quite interesting and endearing seeing him, enjoy something as simple as McDonald's so much, which is something that basically all of us, like the two of us and all of the people surrounding us, basically take for granted, we're less than 500 meters from
just the convenience of it, isn't it?
From a couple of McDonald's restaurants, and it's just like, okay, whatever. But for him it was like an event.
So Sulters Escape, scientific inaccuracies, what would be your third?
The third, well, I do have a few interviews which I really like Chris Stuckman's.
Yeah, that was really hard to do, wasn't it? Because we had loads of technical issues on that.
Yeah, lots of technical issues. Brandy Schmiedel, also a lot of technical issues, and it was an amazing interview in my opinion. Dave Gracie, who I already mentioned, like a lot of great stories, really interesting. But I think that, I don't know, I don't remember all of our videos because they're in the hundreds now that we've done together, but yeah, I would say Chris Stuckman's interview. It was like the first I think, the first major interview for me.
Yeah.
And it was really...
I enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's had a lot of views as well. And Chris is such a great guy, and he was very gracious with how much he shared. So
yeah, it was really interesting, especially for me as someone who I wouldn't call myself like a movie buff, but I do appreciate cinematography. I do love movies and stuff like that, and just hearing how limiting it is to be a JW, and how he had to like slalom through the rules just to watch some movies and write like a simple
just to
review.
Make an Indiana Jones fan film, basically.
And get told off because whatever, and that was really something.
Wow, well, that's pretty much everything I wanted to ask you. But do you have any kind of preferably rousing and emotionally compelling concluding comments to make?
My concluding
comment. Your job.
I will. I'll try not to go off onto a rant, and
you can, if you want, edit in some rousing music at this point.
I just wanted to touch on you've mentioned the XJW community. To me, sort of the latest big revelation about JWs is how calling yourself an XJW and being on the surface an XJW doesn't make you an XJW, and how much of it sticks deep inside, how many how should I say, like, forms of behavior, just how it's obvious that someone is still deep inside the JW, and with things that happen to you, and with the people involved, it's just now when I see some of something, the curiosity gets the best of me, and I go off and read some of the things they are saying, and it's just so sort of revealing that these people aren't XJWs. They might have exited officially, but the cult indoctrination and the programming is still there, which is really sad, and I hope that all of them get better, for a lack of a better word, and that they realize that that what they're doing and the way that they behave is not in any way, I don't want to say normal, because normal is such a non-word, because what is normal? But it's not even acceptable to some way. I won't go into any details, but I have read a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff about me, people not believing that my name is my name, people, the whole green screen thing, people...
Oh yeah, people were there was a conspiracy theory that we were faking the bunker at one point.
Yeah. We were faking the bunker, which, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but people were like a proper conspiracy theory level, like when you watch one of those videos where someone zooms in on a blurry video of the sky and says that's an UFO, and that's basically how those people were like, oh, there's some fuzziness around Lloyd's shoulder, it must be green screen. So and they went, I'm guessing that they went on like Google search extravaganza for my name, because
people have been Googling your name. I didn't know this.
I'm guessing so, because someone has called me out on for not being me, my name, Tibor, but called me by my friend's name. My friend, who's not even my friend, he's like my classmate from high school. And I don't know how they got through to his name. I'm guessing maybe some post from him that included me on Facebook or something, but it was quite like, what are you doing? And
you haven't told me any of this. So someone basically went on like an investigation and went on your friend's Facebook post.
Yeah, I'm guessing, or somewhere where his name is mentioned next to mine or instead of mine or something. I don't know, because they've called me by my classmate's name, and then I think even before.
Also, they were goading you with your classmate's name or something.
Yeah, they were saying like, "Oh, Tibor," or should I say? And then my classmates name, like,
right, okay, yeah.
But a few pages before, that was I think shortly after the whole green screen theory, they posted the front page of my undergraduate thesis, which is on
online
on green screens. Yeah, they posted the.
Whoa! So they we're talking about a forum thread now. So they posted, and XJW's posted your thesis, your video thesis.
Not my video thesis,
a screen grab of it.
The screen grab of the front page of the text version of the basically the literary part of my thesis, which clearly has my name on it. There's no way I could fake a name onto a thesis.
Yeah. But that's messed up, isn't it? That's quite more than you signed up for, really.
And they were like, "Oh, you can see he's done green screen work, so this must be green screen," and stuff like that. So to me it's funny, but in a way it's also sad, because I don't know how many people believe them, and if they believe them, how many people think the same way. Just like, I'm all for critical thinking and doubting things, but when you start to doubt literally everything, like, how do you live with yourself?
Yeah.
How do you call yourself an ex-cult member when you're just creating like a cult in your head where nothing is true and no one is to be believed? And I'm, just by being like associated with you, being your video editor, it was enough for them. And when I went on the forum, actually, and I was just like, I thought like some of these people must be like rational people that I can just tell them, look, this is silly, this isn't green screen, and I honestly wish I could do green screen this well, because then we wouldn't need to have a studio. I could just
I'd be in Hollywood.
I would just do this for a living, just fiddle with green screens. And I was immediately like, no, this must be Lloyd, because it was a word. I've used some word which is used all the time, in common conversations, but it's used every day.
So they said that you were me.
Yeah,
right.
I was you for using that word. So stuff like that. Yeah, I hope that those people do get better, and people who are actually proper XJWs who don't have that sort of mentality, I hope they find some help, in our videos on how to navigate the live post.
And you don't mean that like patronizingly, it's like genuinely,
I mean that I really want people to get, help. Whoever gets help from our channel and gets how should I say, like, gets any sort of idea, like on which direction they should go and stuff like that, because we do have a lot of voicemails, and some of those are a great thing to listen to as someone who is probably just who has just left the JW organization, and you can probably get some good info on sorting things out, because it must be like we saw with Ben. It's you need to sort out so many things that we get for granted, we take for granted. So I do hope that people do.
Yeah, I can only I feel like I need to apologize in a way, because again, that sort of thing where you're having your basically privacy invaded on an online forum is above and beyond, anything that you signed up for when you took the job. And I think that's the sort of kind of essentially harassment that would drive many people away. And I think I need to thank you for sticking it out despite all that. And all I would say is that although there are, and I don't want to get into all ex-Jehovah's Witness nonsense, I kind of make a point of not talking about it on the channel, but one thing I've learned is that though there is a disappointing kind of percentage of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who are like this and who are not just kind of hyper judgmental, but kind of borderline conspiracy theorist nutcases.
Yeah.
In all that's happened over the past year, it's also been a source of great reassurance to know that there are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who have shed their judgmental side and who do understand that everyone's imperfect and gets to screw up now and then. And I'm really, really heartened by that, and I draw great comfort from knowing that there are people who are kind and supportive, who believe in what we're doing. And when I say that, I include you, you know.
Thanks.
Because for you to kind of stick it out through all that's happened over the last 12 months and still be punching, you know, is a huge testament to your kind of resilience. So thank you for still working for me. Thanks for taking my paycheck. But yeah, that's it. I think, shall we leave it there?
I think we should, yeah.
Yeah.
We might do a sequel at some point.
Oh yeah, well, who knows? Maybe there'll be clamour for the sequel.
Yeah.
But thank you, Tibor. You do a fantastic job, and I really appreciate it. Viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this interview, which Tibor will have to edit.
Sadly, yeah. Someone has to do it.
Please do subscribe for similar videos, and
thank you
for watching.